his first 3 years.
Yes.
Yards per game.
Yes.
Like 109 a game as a rookie.
Yes.
Dominated. 98 a game second year, 96 a game third year. Got his money. Fell to 85 a game. Fell last year to 65 yards a game. And if we look at 20-plus yard runs, in 2016 as a rookie, he had 14 20-plus yard runs that led all of football. Last year he had 3.
Skip.
You want to talk about shell of yourself?
But think about this. Think about where they started. This was a run-based team, but they morphed into a throwing to put the ball in Dak's hand.
Yeah, but all I hear is we want to balance it up this year.
Yeah, I know what they say.
Okay.
Skip, you don't pay a guy $40 million to have him turn around and hand the ball off to Zeke Elliott 30 times a game. You pay a guy that kind of money because you believe he can take you to the promised land throwing the football.
Okay, but we're looking at Zeke make or break this year. It's not make or break for Dak Prescott.
I'm not saying it's make or break, but the amount of pressure. Because what did he say? I need my money. When I'm not coming around, I'm not participating in anything till you give me my money. Okay, they gave him his money. So now what you gonna do to show me this money was warranted? You got to win. You got to do it.
So what about fans about the first 2 episodes of Hard Knocks? All I hear is Dak is locked in. He's standing in practice. He's mentally running the play in his head. He's saying, if they do this, I'm going to go here. When I go here, you're reading here.
Yeah.
And he's telling the Hard Knocks crew, or I think it's actually just an interview that he did with the media group, I'm thinking through every play. And we see him on the sideline in Arizona on Friday night, and he is locked in, sort of reading as the quarterback on the field reads the play. What's Zeke been doing? We got happy-go-lucky Zeke.
Exactly.
We got giddy Zeke. We got silly, crazy Zeke. We got deep sunflower seeds and over-the-top cheerleading on the sideline. It's kind of scary now.
Why you think that about the huge expectations for Sean McVay with the Dallas Cowboys and what's expected? He knows if Jerry is bad, he understands about his football mortality. He talks about just one more time. What I get to touch that trophy one more time. He says, I paid the guy. I paid all of my guys. The offensive line from Ron Collins to Ty Smith, the Black Martin, I paid you your money. Zeke Elliott, I gave you your money. Amari Cooper, Jalen Smith, I gave you $6. I paid you the money.
That these guys make running back to the football team instead. Some people tell me who's become the class clown for the Dallas Cowboys on Hard Knocks. Every time I look up, he's stealing Dak's fight, right? And he's trying to wrap Dak's birthday present, Dad.
Right? How much Zeke got 5 years, 90 million. Dak Prescott gets $75 million this year alone. I told him Dak Prescott will make $106 million.
I'm just thinking about that right now. I'm talking as a Cowboy fan. They're the ones who are going to apply the most pressure. And I think all they're hearing is that Zeke is finally in the best shape of his life, in 10 times better shape than he was 1 year ago. Okay, and better show.
As being around the game, when was the last time you saw a high collision guy moving and regaining?
Well, that's a good question. We're going to ask John Troy that question because he's been there right on that, right? And so that's the choice. You get it. Okay, the point is, I'm with you on that. I have my doubts, but I'm trying to hang on with glass half full that this will be a bounce back year. He just turned 26 years of age.
I'm not going to let you
Hey guys, I'm Frankie, here with Heinz. It's part of the art of the group. So it's my job to help you unleash the inner artist so that you can take the burger and make it your canvas onto which you will paint your picture. That's right, we're going to make delicious burgers. We're starting off with a sweet and spicy type. We just strap on your apron, find a beret, it's time to fire up the grill. We're going to start by pickling some onions. Try to get the thinnest pieces of onion, half moon shaped, salad with some water, distilled vinegar, sugar, and some kosher sauce. So we're just going to bring this up to a simmer so that everything dissolves. Our pickled onions are going to be a pop of flavor that's so much more complex than your average sliced onion. Plus, we can use it for other dishes in the future. Everything's dissolved. Now, that super hot liquid is going to penetrate deep into the center of the cell walls of the onions, much faster than oil. So I'm just going to cover this up. Let it cool and set it aside. Now it's time to create some buttons, ketchup, and some honey racha, which is just racha and honey mixed together to get super sweet and spicy. Sesame oil to add another soy sauce for salt and deep color, and some limes to cut through it. Let's mix this up.
Ooh,
Take a good taste and enough taste. I must know what's
what's that?
Here's where we were. Here's where we're at. We got spicy, we got sweet, we got umami, we got nutty, we got fatty. And now that we're on the inside of our burger, we have all of those flavors in a way that's delivered straight out unexpected. You don't want to put too much. All these different flavors that are happening here accentuate everything about the burger. I think it's a missed opportunity to just take out the formula fatties. We should totally have it. Just adding a little bit of the neutral high smoke point oil. Salt right before you put the burgers in the pan. Get these guys with salt, because I'm ready to flip it over. I'm going to cook this on each side twice. What else can we do with condiments? Well, we can glaze it on here, and then when we flip it and cook it, we're going to intensify the flavors even more. It's going to work a little quickly now. You don't want to burn anything. Remember, sugar burns much faster. So give it a minute on each side after the glaze. These look great, they smell great, but it's kind of add a little artistic. So let's use them on the top of instead of they are just rings of canned pineapple. They give us this sweetness and moisture that is so sweet. So just a kiss on these pineapples. Look at that. It's time to put the finishing touches on our masterpiece, aka a simple bottom bun first, mayonnaise. Spreading out the mayo really nicely across the whole bun creates an uneven layer which prevents the burger juices from soggy our bottom bun. Check out more anomalies. Pickled jalapenos. See the contrast in color here? It really is a painting. We got the lettuce here. So now our top and bottom buns are both protected from water, which is the enemy of bun structure. It's absolutely delicious. Full of flavor. Juicy. Sweet and spicy, but not over.
Nice, sir. My work was critical. Not too bad, but
Whatever you're doing.
Would you take the seat for home or great? I think, well, first of all, they made changes because of your boy. It's like anything. When I look at it, though, it's hard because my man is like, what, 43? He's still rolling. This dude's 43. I think Brady, he's going to be scary as shit because now he's with an awful team. You know, last year was it's like a rookie all over again. You go from playing with a team that for 20 years where you can install the offense, you know, your team has an offense coordinator, you know, but actually he can do it over in the Patriots. And now kind of combines things that you do whatever, you know, with the Patriots. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I think it's Brady, and I think it's Brady because it's not just about his talent. That's what people get lost. If you want to go with arm talent, give me Patrick Mahomes. If you want to go mobility, give me Patrick Mahomes. If you want to go with tangibles, everything that you can touch, give me Patrick Mahomes. But Tom Brady makes everybody else around him Brady and Jameis Winston in and of itself is not Super Bowl. It's just not. But the difference between Tom Brady and Jameis Winston, when Tom Brady helped elevate Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and not necessarily statistically, but elevate the mind of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Tom Brady, the general manager, bringing in the around Rob Gronkowski, helping bring in Fournette, etc. That increases everybody else around him. Tom Brady doesn't just come to his arm, he doesn't just come to his hands. Tom Brady comes in with the intangible as well. Give me Tom Brady in this season over Patrick Mahomes, not because he's better, but because he makes everybody else around him that much better. Oh man, this is crazy right here. You know, the respect is high for both guys, obviously. But I'm going with Patrick Mahomes. One, it is a talent conversation. At least we don't start here. But the more talented of the two, which is the guy in his prime, and Patrick Mahomes, just got smushed, just got waxed, just got owned by an old man at the YMCA. Imagine you a young boy, and you are Patrick Mahomes, you're a champion, and you walking in, you're a former MVP, and you see the old man, and you know he got game. But come on, man, that game's supposed to be behind you, right? That's why you let him do it, right? And he's expanding it on sometimes. Look at the space. There are certain things you have to be sure. And you got that. You never know how to wax this dude. And he give you that old man game. What that makes you do is go back to the lab and not still step. That means whatever talent level you have, it has to now beat the mundane. It has to beat the simple things. What Tom Brady has mastered. So now you have the perfect equation, the perfect formula. Patrick Mahomes not skipping a step, making sure his teammates don't skip a step. Give him last all six something different. Why not like the two? Why not 6 or 7? This all season. Hey, you know why? Because they realize we skipped the step. I was saying this last year. That talent can only cash in so much. So if you look at him, and now his mindset, that's and this young, talented bunch, oh, they're going to be wrong. They're ready. They're ready. I understand the hunger. I understand that they're going to be ready, but I don't know if the hunger has helped them in the playoffs. I'm ready to help Chris Mahomes in the playoffs. I understand the hunger. I understand the readiness. Like, hunger and readiness still alone don't do it. Don't you have hunger, plus you need talent, plus you need technique, plus you need buy-in. When it comes down to it, Mahomes isn't fighting a battle versus Tom Brady. He was trying to tell us that before the Super Bowl. He's like, hey, it's not me versus Brady, it's team versus team. And the problem is the soldiers that Mahomes rides with, they aren't as deep as the soldiers that even Brady rides with. We talk about Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Nico Harvey. Those guys are dudes. We forget. Tom Brady played with 3 future Hall of Famers at the wide receiver and tight end position. It's not necessarily Patrick Mahomes. Tom Brady actually has more talent around him offensively and has more talent around him defensively as well than just the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs got names, boy. Chiefs got him. Chiefs got, and on the flip side, Chiefs got Ty Matthews. But it's also everybody in Tom Brady room, which is why I'm rolling with Tom Brady. We got Shaky back. We got Shaky back like that. What you got? I'm back. You guys got the Master G, the hook up connection over there. What's going on? Who's both, but yeah, I think like I was saying, like this year, you know, Tom was for 20 years with an offense, right? They can install itself. Now it's with the Bucks where it was neutral. So year 2 is always better. You look at a rookie. The rookie's first year is always learning, then his second year is always his best year. So I think Tom's gonna have a great year this year. I think after the bye week, you know, they kind of gave him the keys and let him drive a little bit. And into the playoffs, start driving a lot faster. And now I look at Mahomes, right? They're so talented over there with Andy Reid. And Patrick does his thing. Like Andy Reid lets him go, right? He puts him in a position to make plays. He lets his personality show, and that's what he does. He has a lot of weapons, a lot of speed. So that's all I'm going to do. I like them both. The only reason why I might give it to the Bucks is because that defense is back. That same defense is back. They're fast, they're physical, they're tough, they play hard. You know, they rip dealing with players that got a lottery mindset, a lotto mind, as they call it. You got to convince them dudes to go to work now because they got it all because they scratched and sniffed Tom Brady. Tom Brady came, we won. Now the work begins. Not last year. Y'all may thought last year was something. This year's going to be different because you look at this Tampa Bay team and the Kansas City Chiefs are like, damn, Washington looked better against them in the playoffs than we did. Oh, no, we are way more talented than that. So I think that hunger, that faith, it's the fact that Patrick Mahomes did get smushed by the same Buccaneers bunch. It's going to be the reason they get over that hump. Now, to defend them guys over there in Tampa, okay, the one thing is Tom, they bring to the he's good at talent, right? And Winston, threw the ball very well. He threw some picks. He threw a lot of picks. But he had some yards. The thing with Tom, though, like, it's hard to describe. I've never experienced it. Even with that, I never experienced a guy bringing like a winning tradition, like a winning culture, winning attitude. The way he practices, the way he dissects the game, like he's the only player I've ever played with. He can convince you to walk in the water and you'll be okay, and it will happen. You have guys up there that's walking out there in the water. He has a thing about him that he makes everybody believe on offense, on defense, on special teams, to the coaches. When you bring that type of attitude, that type of leadership, you're going to win. I feel like with Coach Arians and him together, they work so well. Because one thing about Coach Arians, he's tough. He's going to say how it is. Hey, you missed the block, do better. He might say a couple bleep words, bleep, but you get the point. And I think as with him and Tom to kind of smooth over where, all right, Coach, you address the players, but he lets Tom kind of control it. Because Tom makes everybody on that team accountable. When he got to the playoffs, I promise you, got to the playoffs, man, the intensity got bigger and bigger and bigger every game. And like, you see a different side of Tom. So that dude, man, we talk about fire, getting guys ready to play and compete and having that great first song. He always talks about, the only game that matters the most is the next one. The only win that matters the most is the next one. He's locked in, yo. He's locked. There's no way you can play at 40-something years old with this fast, cold men, young men, right? At that age, you're not locked in. He's locked in. No doubt. Nobody gonna argue with that against the GOAT, last quarterback to overprotection of players and fans. And in the spirit of what you want to do.
From 37th actual NBA All-Star Game, Focus Malone and Hakeem Olajuwon.
Call from a neighbor because they saw my sign outside. I find 2 feet of water in the basement. Went through the house, fixed every pipe one by one. I mean, I had to do whatever it takes to get a house sold. What I will say is one does take a king.
Let's welcome in our friend Drew Holiday, coming live to us from an outlet mall parking lot. Drew, what's up, man?
I gotta save money, man. I'm not making enough.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about your last month. There's so much to get to. It's been quite the ride. You win an NBA championship. You're now a gold medalist. I wanted to start kind of with the decision to actually play in the Olympics, because it was pretty much like a 3-day turnaround for you. What went into that decision? How, and
Hey, what's going on, Hot Ones fans? This is Sean Evans coming at you from the Hot Ones Museum of Curiosities, where at the end of every season we answer your hard-hitting, end-of-season Hot Ones fan questions. And this year, there were 2 burning, controversial topics that we'll hit on first as we enter Controversy Corner. Number 1 on that list, the Wall of Shame. What happened to the Wall of Shame? Well, I'll try to break this down as best I can to open things up. This is far from a perfect analogy, but there's that thing about the wrong laugh, that Dave Chappelle thing about the wrong laugh. And I kind of felt like that was happening with the Wall of Shame, where I think people are taking the Wall of Shame literally and kind of thinking, well, if you don't eat a wing with Scorpion Disco, you should actually be shamed for it. I like some of the Tap Out episodes. Like, to me, Lil Yachty, Ricky Gervais, those are still to this day 2 of my favorite episodes. So it's already hard to book this show where we have celebrities eating scorched out chicken wings. then you have, you know, if you don't get through the gauntlet, an angry mob dunking on you in a way that isn't really super positive or doesn't serve the show at all. So it was like, wall of shame, scrap it up, throw it in the garbage. Then I got a tweet that I thought was kind of interesting when this person was like, what the hell? Olivia Rodrigo got through the gauntlet and she thought a bell pepper was spicy. Bring back the wall of shame. You guys are soft. And I was like, all right, well, that sort of makes sense to me. So here's my position on the wall of shame going forward. We will bring it back on a probationary period. But the second I start getting tagged in things at scale that are dark and weird and way too emotional and angry and rageful, wall of shame is done, and it's done forever. So ball is in your court. We play nice with it. We keep the wall of shame. It starts to get weird and dark again. It's all over. It's all over. So you guys have the power. The second thing, 2 tables. So when the 2 table thing started off, it was just a way to satisfy the safety guidelines, the lawyers, etc., to get back into the studio. And I'm like the YouTube audience. You know, like you change anything about a YouTube show, people freak out, and I'm kind of like that. So I kind of do try to protect everything about Hot Ones as much as I can. And at first I was like, it's got to be 1 table. It's got to be 1 table. But what I've found from going through the 2 table thing is that I actually prefer the 2 table setup. The distance is a much more natural and comfortable distance to do an interview, and then the projection of your voice, it translates to video so much better. I look at old episodes, me and Joey Diaz are like 6 inches away from each other's face. The talking's almost like whispering. Sure, like when people are going through hot sauce moments, it gets kind of loud, but I don't know the future, like how this thing goes. Maybe it's Jonas Brothers table, but maybe it's just 2 table setup. I love the 2 table setup. All right, well, there you have it. Controversy Corner. Those questions addressed as thoroughly as I can, but now it's time to dig into some of the more nuanced, some of the more niche, some of the more specialized Hot Ones fan questions. Dom, hit me with the bucket. Let's dive right in. Out of all the guests you've had on Hot Ones, which is the one that you were glad you got before they reached their current level of fame? There's a genre of Hot Ones interview that I love, which is kind of like, you know, maybe they're not the first interview of record, but maybe the first or close to the first interview of record for a lot of these pop stars that have done this just sort of meteoric rise to the top. And there are 4 that stand out in my mind. So that would be most recently in this season, the Olivia Rodrigo episode. But I also really compare that episode to ones that we've done in the past with Shawn Mendes, Billie Eilish, and even Post Malone. I feel like they were just on their way to just taking over the pop world, and we caught them at a really interesting time in their lives and in their careers. So those 4 interviews I value as sort of a genre unto themselves. All right, up next. Have you ever played game consoles before? If so, what was your first system you had? That's from Nationverse 8472. I'm old as fuck. No. Listen, dude, I'm old. I remember my Nintendo NES Christmas. I remember my Sega Genesis Christmas. So, yeah, I played consoles before. All right, up next. Do you have any tricks of the trade or guiding principles to use with balancing the need to be present in an interview versus the temptation to edit in your head to make sure you get what you need? That's from Tanner Britt. Actually, an awesome question. I have this debate with myself all the time because you can get into kind of a bad habit of editing the episode in real time, and then it's like, oh, I know how that wing's going to play out because I've sat through 10 million of these edits over the years. It's really easy to kind of turn the page and go on to the next thing, but you don't want to be so mathematical in the way that you're engaging and connecting to another person. So that is forever a battle that goes on in the head of an interviewer. You don't want it to be so transactional, like, got what we need from you, great, now we move on. You actually want to connect and have that rhythm and build that story of each individual shoot. So that's always the goal, but I'd be lying to myself if I said that you don't fight with yourself internally, at least a little bit, when it comes to that kind of internal debate. All right, up next. Earl the Actor asks, what's your favorite place to dine in Evanston? So I used to go to Northwestern games all the time with my dad and my brother, and then afterwards we'd go to Hackney because they have this onion ring. So I always remember Hackney's fondly because it was part of that Saturday in the fall, going to Ryan Field, watch the Wildcats, and then afterwards going to Hackney. So I'll go with Hackney's officially. Since it's been a few seasons since we've had a fellow YouTuber on Hot Ones, have you thought about interviewing more YouTubers or even possibly popular Twitch streamers? So here's how I look at this thing now. I don't think of YouTubers as any different from mainstream celebrities. Like, there are YouTubers that have network talk shows and are in movies, and then you have conventional movie stars that start YouTube channels. So to me, at this point, it's become so interchangeable. Basically, what we look at is when we're pitching a guest, who's got a book coming out, who's got a movie coming out, who's got a show coming out, where do we need to update the pitch, where can we try a different strategy, and then all of those things kind of work to get a guest to finally sit in the seat and eat the scorched hot chicken wings. So maybe it's been a little YouTuber light, but I think that in future seasons, maybe it'll be a little YouTuber heavy, but I don't differentiate between those things. All right, up next, Colin Kurtz asks, what is your favorite book that was written by a guest on Hot Ones? I can't just pick one. Let me just shout out my top 5. I like Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. I like Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. I like Not Taco Bell Material by Adam Carolla. I like Yearbook by Seth Rogen. I like Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. And then an honorable mention to Professional Idiot by Steve-O. And Life Will Be the Death of Me by Chelsea Handler. Naomi Campbell Coffee Table book. Also amazing. We can't clear the cover art though, I'll tell you that right now. Better Rocker asks, is there someone that you personally wanted on the show that have been denied by the showrunners in some capacity? I love this question because it implies that there's any sort of structure to this operation whatsoever. And showrunner, I don't know what a showrunner is. It might be a shock to everyone watching, but Shonda Rhimes is not standing behind that monitor. I can see who's behind that monitor. It is not Shonda Rhimes. But so basically, though, how it works is if it ever comes down to a debate, there's basically like 3 people that have a vote, and so we all have a key. So if 2 people put in the key and turn it, then that's a yes. If only one person or nobody puts in the key, then that's kind of a no. Although those sorts of debates don't come up all that often. So no showrunner, still just a small operation. And speaking of that operation, our little island of misfit toys over here, I think it's time that we check in with Bill and see how his summer's been going. Hey, Bill. Bill?
Oh, hey there, Sean. Looks like you caught me finishing up my afternoon nap. Oh, I've been up since 6 a.m. tending to my slow-cooked wings. Would you look at that? Time for a nice cold Coors Light. This summer, I've been perfecting the perfect recipe for summer chill. That's why I moved my tent next to my grill so I'd never have to leave. The key to making the perfect smoked wings is cooking them slow and long. There's nothing quite like sleeping out under the stars with the smell of smoked meat and sipping on a nice cool Coors Light. Excuse me, Sean. I have to check on my wings. Not done yet. Oh, looks like I'm gonna be here a while.
Camera guy Bill, keeping the lights on over here. All right, let's get back to the bucket.
Here we are again, cleaning up another.
Jonathan asks, what last TV show or film you enjoyed watching? This year I liked Willy's Wonderland. I liked Zola. I liked the Bob Odenkirk movie Nobody. I liked Black Widow. I liked Stillwater. And then last night, you know what? Sometimes you forget how kick-ass some movies are. I watched Gone Girl last night. That movie was awesome. All right, approaching
There's no use
the
in
bottom of the
quantifying
bucket.
the help you give.
When
Any
picking
amount
guests,
is enough.
would you rather be someone who watches / enjoys Hot Ones already, or someone who never saw it and how it goes? Also, Lord is my MVP for this season so far. No argument there. I'm kind of both. Like, I'll pull 2 examples from this season. So, David Harper, for example, is a guy that had no idea really what he was getting himself into, and I love that episode because you can see him fall into Hot Ones in such a magical way. Gets drunk off the hot sauce, and it's exactly how we draw it up. But I'll tell you one thing, you know, in the early days, everybody was like kind of walking in, looking at it sideways, like, what is this freak show? And that was never fun because then you'd have to kind of dig yourself out of that hole, and then they'd kind of get it, and then you'd have a good thing going. But that beforehand, when I'm just sort of like sitting there on set by myself, with his wigs and sort of the embarrassing black curtain set, that was never fun. Now, when we have people walk in and their kids watch it, or they've seen the episodes, or whatever, that is so much better than how it used to be. I'll tell you that. There you have it. It's another Hot Ones fan Q&A in the books. As you know, we get the drill at this point, 15 seasons in. When we say goodbye to one season, we're just waving in the next season to port. So season 16 will be just around the corner. In the meantime, lots of surprises, truth or dab, hot sauce reveal, and then of course the season 16 premiere. Thank you so much for watching this season. It means the world to us. Coming out of the quarantine episodes, seeing the way fans have rallied around the show, I can't tell you what it means to us that work at Hot Ones. Until then, though, Hot Ones for life.
It's awful. Oh my god. What's happening to my body?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? For First We Feast, I'm Sean Evans, and you're watching Hot Ones. It's the show with hot questions and even hotter wings. And today we're joined by Matt Damon. He's an Academy Award-winning actor who's been in some of the most iconic films of the last 25 years. Good Will Hunting, The Saving Private Ryan, the Bourne film series, and many more. His latest, though, the Tom McCarthy-directed crime drama Still One, which is set to release on July 30th. Matt Damon, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
I know that you're a big Cholula
Okay,
fan.
yeah.
What's going through your brain right now as you prepare for the wing gauntlet today?
I made the mistake of watching probably too many of my colleagues do this, and so I think I went from being pretty bullish about it to being there's a humble man sitting before you. My kids really wanted me to do this too, which I know is a theme. A lot of people say that, but it was true for my kids too. So they want to see the flops win. So
Let's put on a show.
all right. Oh, it's terrific. So there's a store in Williamsburg that sells all these, right?
Yep. Shout out Heatness. Heatness.com. Heatness.com.
Heatness.com. All right. Well, the classic hot sauce is fantastic.
So far, so good.
Mm-hmm.
So your latest film, Stillwater, recently
Damn.
premiered a 5-minute-long standing ovation at Cannes, and in it you play an oil roughneck from Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
How did taking a road trip to the Sooner State, eating at places like Ray's Barbecue, and then befriending real-life oil man Kenny Baker, how did that help you and Tom McCarthy to shape the story?
I knew about Ray's Barbecue. This was fantastic. That was really the key to everything going down there. I love this script, and I've read it and loved the dynamic between all the characters and so believed it. But the specificity of what a roughneck is and what a roughneck does is absolutely key to creating this character. So I didn't know that whole world. We actually named the character Bill Baker as kind of an homage to Kenny because his last name is Baker. Kenny took us around and went to these oil rigs, the way he walks, the way he stands, the goatee and the wraparound glasses, all those specific details came from our time down there. And I think, they kind of met us, the Roughnecks kind of met us with like some understandable wariness, like
Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing? Like, what are your intentions? You know what I mean? Are you here to poke fun at us? Like, what are you really doing? But once they realized, the script had all this compassion and empathy for this character, it was about this guy, and we were just trying to get it right. They were awesome. Just gave us unbelievable access, and the movie is what it is, and that performance is what it is, and I'm really proud of it. But it's because it comes from those guys. Oh, that's delicious. I would have both of those in my house without a doubt. That's great.
So I'm from Illinois. My mom actually worked for the U.S. government's antitrust division. I actually remember her working on the Mark Whitaker case where I filmed The Informant. Out of my own personal curiosity, what drew you to that story and that project?
Well, Steven Soderbergh asked me, and incidentally, asked me to do it at a time in my career when it looked like I was going that way. The Bourne Identity hadn't come out. I had a bunch of bombs. Steven called me, and I remember he told me about it, and I didn't realize he was offering me to star in it because nobody had offered me a job in a while. And I said, do you want me to write this? Because I'm a writer also. And he said, no, I want you to star. Scott Burns is going to write it. I want you to star in it. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, we sat on it for a number of years until the timing worked out. And we shot it in 2008. It's one of my favorite things I've done. And that case was just incredible. So I'm proud of the movie we did. So masa, spicy habanero, and manzano chili hot sauce. Intensely spicy, just one drop hot sauce. Well, and this one's had a bath.
It has.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's delicious. Big pepper, but really good. I gotta kind of eat all the wing because I saw Bill Burr do that.
Bill
it's
set
a
the bar.
Boston thing.
Boston strong.
Yeah, he did really well.
So Project Greenlight offers a fascinating insight into the chaos that goes into making a movie. At what stage in the filmmaking process are the stakes the highest? Like, is having a solid script the most essential component to making a good movie, or does the sink or swim moment happen further down the line?
Well, it can be both ways. You can have a solid script and you can be adjusting it as you go along. And, the most hectic and high pressure is in production because that's like when you're lighting money on fire. You've got everybody out there, you're on location somewhere. It's just really expensive. Pre-production, you can kind of pump the brakes a little bit. You can slow down there. You can work kind of regular person work hours. That's got a little more than I thought.
How would you, in layman's terms, explain the internal calculus that goes on with the studio when they're deciding whether or not to finance a film, like whether or not it's worth the gamble?
Yeah, well, that's the key. The word is gamble because it's always a gamble, right? It's always a risk. They try to mitigate the risk by putting somebody who they think is bankable, quote unquote bankable in. The kind of inside baseball of it is they have a list from what I understand. I don't know that it's like they meet like the heads of the 5 families in The Godfather and talk about it. Or there's some secret list, but it does seem like you don't know if you're on the list or not. You just know kind of based on how many offers you're getting. Like, I don't think I'm on the list right now. And I think you kind of, it's like the Premier League. You get relegated and you get promoted and you kind of go back and forth. But it does seem like if you're on the list in one place, you're on the list in all 5.
Can't nobody mess with it. Who's going on? Like young boys and all those
That's why the other. Oh, it ain't cool. It's my boss. One day,
Me? You coming or what? Better my brother than my with me that day. So what's our journey beyond our wildest imaginations? I've been being one rock. They got the light. Yeah, we got a lot of that business on demand. As long as we got my vision in your brains. Can't nobody mess with us, man. Everybody in there knows the risk. The risk, problems, was the chill is part of it. The rules always been the same. Ain't no other way. And the competition thinking. You tell me that the Los Angeles is back in town. What kind of job you got treated? It's not like that. What's it like to meet you? Well, when you gave up that shit, it's crazy. You didn't give us our freedom or the right to die. We had to fight for that shit. It's the same way as us fighting for our independence this morning, man.
Things we don't ever need to experience again. Head looking it up in an encyclopedia. Remembering phone numbers. Renting movies from a store. Running with a CD player. And having only one way to buy a car. That's why CarMax gives you options. You can buy online, or any combination in between. And it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. The way it should be. CarMax.
And do you do this by a taste profile or an actual heat profile? I guess you have the habanero measure on the side.
Yeah,
right? So it's going up. It's all going to keep going up.
But that's a good question because we do try to mix up the sauces because physiologically you'll react differently to different peppers. So
This is
maybe
delicious.
you'll have like a pepper that like lights your lips on fire, like scratches your throat or makes you sweat in the back of your neck a little bit. So we try to mix those up so that it's like a full, just the walls are closing in on you.
The enjoyment
Yeah.
that you got. There's three totally different things that these wings can do to you. This is great.
So I've heard you say that you take every job based on the director, and it would seem that guiding philosophy has served you well, having worked with 9 different filmmakers over the course of your career who've all won an Oscar for Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
Clint Eastwood is notorious for always going with the first take. What was that experience like as an actor on the set of Invictus?
Well, it was a little terrifying because I was playing South African, and that's a really hard accent to do. You think about what our tongue does in an American accent. It's like the polar opposite in a South African accent. So it's like, what do you say? I'll be right back. Think about what your tongue does. They say, hope it don't make it. And it's like, what the fuck just happened, right? It was very hard to, some of it just required a lot of practice, and I treated it like a job. And I tested that theory on day one of shooting. We did the first take. Went pretty well, but Clint says, cut, print, check the gate, which means, we're done here. We're going to move on. I said, all right, awesome. Maybe if you can get one more. And he just turned and he was like, why? You want to waste everybody's time. I'm like, okay, we're done. All right, good. Let's move on. So I'm glad I put all that in because I really don't think I got one take ever.
And then you have the distinction of working with Francis Ford Coppola in the movie The Rainmaker. What are some of the unique things that you saw him do to elevate a scene? Different tactics. I read something interesting about a new box shoes.
Yeah, that was the scene which I was supposed to be uncomfortable. I was walking into a meeting, and the kind of setup is it's a long conference table, and there's like 15 really high-powered lawyers led by John Boyd. On the other side, these formidable people with this incredible, formidable guy in the middle of them, right? And I'm little Rudy Baylor with, by myself. On the other side of the conference table, sort of walking into the room, Francis put rocks in my shoes, and then just told me to walk normal. You just want to be uncomfortable. Try to act as comfortable as you can because you don't want them to see how uncomfortable you are. So things like that.
All right, man, are you ready to move on? Halfway mark. You're doing great.
Thank you.
This one's the ginger goat here in the 5 spot.
The ginger goat. The original goat. Tom Brady of hot chocolate. That's interesting. I like it.
It's got a little pineapple in it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll kind
A
of
little fruit. Yeah, that's nice.
All right, Matt, we have a recurring segment on our show called Explain That Gram. We do a deep dive on our guest Instagram, pull interesting pictures that need more context. Of course, if you don't have an Instagram, you might be surprised to learn this. You still have plenty of pictures up in there. So what we'll do is we'll pull up the picture on the monitor.
Mm-hmm.
You just tell us the bigger story in an all-sports theme. I love that we can do that. We have an all-sports theme for Matt Damon. So let's pull up the first picture. Do you have a lasting memory from sitting courtside in the Staples Center for Game 5 of the 08 Finals between the Celtics and Lakers?
Absolutely. I have a fucking great memory of that game. These seats are next to the Lakers. So literally we sat down and the guys who worked for the Lakers are looking like, you gotta be kidding me. Like they gave them to you guys, like they were saying, so like this is now I'm gonna talk to Patrick, they were riffing about it. But this game we were down like 21 points. It was something incredible. And sure enough, these guys come back all the way in. It's captain, Paul Pierce, the truth, driving down the lane, like laying the ball in. It hits the glass, and by the time it hits the glass, it hasn't even gone to Phil Jackson's up, calling a timeout to try to stop it. Auburn and I are like going absolutely crazy, jump up, and we're like 15 feet from Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson turns and points at us. Sit down! Shut the And
Yeah, not that moment.
no, I mean it was like probably one of the worst moments of his professional career. It was like it was like God, not this again. But yeah, man, it was like, you know, it was funny. It was a moment.
In Stillwater, you attend a game at the Velodrome. I've seen you at Formula One events. I've seen you at rugby matches. What to you is the most memorable sporting event that you've ever seen internationally?
A great question. The way that people cheer in Europe for soccer is awesome. It's where like to any American who's traveling abroad and has the chance to like just get tickets and get into a stadium, it's really really fun. It's worth seeing. The craziest thing I've ever seen, without a doubt, though, is a soccer game in Argentina. My wife's from Argentina. We went to spend Christmas there about 11, 12 years ago. Her family's team, Boca Juniors, which is a very popular team in Buenos Aires, is in this final. And I say to my uncle, or to her uncle, you know, hey, can we go to this game? And he gets this very serious conversation. We can go. We can't make this as Spanish. We can go. He goes, no women, no children. I was like, what? Like I thought, I was going to take the kids and we were going to
Go to the game, yeah.
Well, I saw why when we went, because we had to get through, I think, 3 police barricades. There was temporary fencing with barbed wire put up. I mean, it was just absolute madness. And police with riot gear outside. And if this is the field, people were sitting here and people were sitting here, kind of like as if in the 2 end zones, what would be end zones of our football. And there was nobody sitting in the best seats, right? Because that was the distance that people could throw things and hit each other. Our team won, the other team's fans were filing out. And the trophy presentation finishes, and I say to Hector, I'm like, should we go? He goes, no, we still. And it was because they needed time to get out of the neighborhood where the stadium was. You had to give them like a 45-minute head start. And then when they did let us out, they actually held us in these temporary kind of cages. I was like, what are we waiting for now? And like, now they still need 5 more minutes to clear the neighborhood. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. Like, definitely a crazy sport. Oh, that's up. It's the back of the throat a little bit, huh?
It's starting.
Got it.
Here, yeah.
All right. Well, it's on now.
Wow. So I think a scenario lots of viewers can relate to is sitting on the couch on a Friday night, going through their streaming services, cycling through the movies, and thinking to themselves, they're not making movies for me anymore. As somebody who's been intimately involved in movie making for 30 years, what are the macro Hollywood conditions behind that sentiment?
Well, so what happened was the DVD was a huge part of our business, of our revenue stream, and technology has just made that obsolete. And so the movies that we used to make, you could afford to not make all of your money when it played in the theater because you knew you had the DVD coming behind the release, and 6 months later you could get a whole nother chunk. It would be like reopening the movie almost. And when that went away, that changed the type of movies that we could make. I did this movie Behind the Candelabra, and I talked to a studio executive who explained it was a $25 million movie. I would have to put that much into print and advertising, right, to market it, what we call P&A. So I'd have to put that in P&A. So now I'm in $50 million. I have to split everything I get with the exhibitor for like all the movie theaters. So I would have to make $100 million before I got into profit. The idea of making $100 million was a story about like a love affair between these 2 people. Yeah, I love doing it in the movie, but I think that's something that has to be in a way that it wasn't in the 1990s when they were making movies. It's the kind of movies that I loved and the kind of movies that were my bread and butter. By the way, these were all great, these first 6, so I'm starting to not be able to my mouth too much. Yeah, alright. Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna drop about 2 pounds. I'm gonna get my fetch weight. That is fucking hot, man. But having said that, it's delicious. That's actually really good.
There's some redeeming culinary qualities in that one.
I would buy all 7 of these. I really would. That one's hot.
Yeah. So when we had David Arbor on the show earlier this season, he said
I love that guy.
for drama to translate on camera, that something real has to happen between the actors.
Yes.
As it should, Steven Spielberg excluded you purposely from the military training on the set of Saving Private Ryan to create real resentment between the rest of the cast and you.
That's totally true. I was such a young, diligent actor, I was ready to go to boot camp. He said, absolutely not. Because you can train any way you want, but keep separating you from the other guys. They really did. They were totally resentful every time they dropped them again. Because I think it rained the whole time. I think they had a tough few days.
There's an internet rumor on Reddit that if you watch the famous idiosyncrasy scene in Good Will Hunting, that you can actually see a subtle wobbling up and down because the camera operator was laughing uncontrollably right along with you and Robin Williams. Confirm or deny on that?
I don't know, we could check. I wouldn't be surprised. Robin made it good laugh. Uncontrolled. And when he would see people's energies flagging, he would just launch into like 10 minutes of stand-up. He was the biggest, comedian in the world and actor in the world, and that level of like, I don't know, leadership, kind of like an attention of love coming from him was just like, well, everybody was ready to like work for another 12 hours. I mean, he was just amazing.
Fact or fiction, you declined to participate in the Bourne Conspiracy video game because you wanted a game that was more like Myst.
Yeah. No, I just didn't want to do a kind of just a first-person shooter. Like, they offered me a bunch of money, but it was like, to make it more, I don't know, a little more thought had to go into it, or, like Myst, I love that game. So I was like, more like Myst. And they were like, no, they just went that way. This is the one, this is, insanity, Jesus. Why?
I don't have a good answer to that question.
Oh, fuck, why?
But going back in,
I saw Billie Eilish go back down to the invitation. I was like, wow, hard. Committed.
you set a high bar with that episode.
Wow, it's up into the nose. That's incredible.
So, my only real goal with this minor internet celebrity is to use it to infiltrate the inner sanctum of my favorite sports teams, the teams that I rooted for growing up. Do you have an all-time most treasured 13-year-old Matt Damon would freak out if he had this moment thinking about your brushes with the Red Sox and Patriots over the years?
Oh, I've had so many of those moments. I went, in 1999, the All-Star game at Fenway Park. They let us out on the field. Wow, to have batting practice. And I hit. Off my dad. Wow. I think that, I'd never need therapy in my life. Sean, this is turf. The other thing is that it doesn't feel good in my stomach either.
Right, spin a little bit. Do you want to gas pedal to the next swing? You want to slow it down?
No, whatever you lead the way, man. You're driving.
Okay. So this next one is the Scorpion Disco.
That sounds fun. Just say Charlotte.
This fall, you reunite with your lifelong friend and longtime collaborator, Ben Affleck, for this historical drama, The Last Duel. Do you have an all-time favorite scene in a movie that you've shot with Ben?
There's a scene in Good Will Hunting where he tells me to get out of town, and that was really cool because we worked on that for 4 or 5 years up to that point, and it was a big scene for him. And when he did it one take, on the first take, and Gus Van Sant, the director, went. It was great. I think I have it. Ben was so shocked because we've been imagining this day for so long. But he looked at me and I was like, Gus is right, I think we got it. Jim Hyman insisted on doing it again. So we did it only 3 times. And I don't know what take Gus used. He couldn't use any of it because they were all great. But the look of bewilderment on his face, that this thing he'd been waiting so long to do was like over in 20 minutes. That was probably my favorite scene.
All right, Matt Damon.
Last dab. Well, I have a great spice story. You want to hear a funny spice story?
I'd love to hear a spice
So
story.
Doug Lyman, who directed the Warren Identity, he's a really funny guy. He loves spice. He's a great director. He's very funny. We're shooting a commercial here in New York. Doug calls this Indian place. He goes, I tell people I want more spice on my food, and they never put enough. And I know you have great spice there. I know you have the hardcore stuff, and I want the hardcore stuff. So you give me everything you have. He goes, I'm telling you, I guarantee you I will not come back and complain. I says, okay. Doug goes, gets his lunch,